Neck-throughs, guitars, they're like a guy that you won't have a beer with you.
I want to hear what's pushing the notes.
Freddie King and B.B. King, Albert King, and let's not forget Burger King.
I don't want to blow my knuckle out.
Stainless steel is the work of the devil.
These go to 11.
From the East Amplification Tone Labs in Baltimore, Maryland, it's the Amps and Axes Show with your hosts, Jeff the Godfather of Low Wattage Amps Bober and Mick Marcelino.
Well, good day to you, Mr. Bober.
Good day to you, Mr. Marcelino. How be you?
Oh, the weather is fine, my friend, and we are doing fine on the numbers because our fans, you guys, just, I can't thank you enough, in the summer months. How about that?
Yeah. Well, sometimes you get stuck and it's raining and then you listen to us and, we hope that you listen to us and your friends listen to us because we couldn't do it without all of you.
That's right. And when you do, and you tell them, hey, man, I heard this person, tell them that you heard it here first.
That's right.
Yeah. That's
right. This is always something here first. And we'll probably bring you somebody today that's a first for you.
First for us.
Was a first for us, absolutely. She's a guitarist that, finds herself on the stage with some pop stars of some, pretty household names at this point. So we're gonna take a pause for the cause and come back after the break and find out how guitarist Arianna Powell got on these stages.
Hey, this is Tom McDermott from Rick James Stone City Band, and you're listening to Amps and Axes.
All right, and we are back with our guest of the week as promised, the beautiful and talented Ms Arianna Powell. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Doing great now. little technical difficulties, but we're great now. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. I'm just at home in Los Angeles and just practicing some music, waiting for you guys to call. Looking forward to this podcast.
And I wanted to tell you, we met Arianna through our good friend Gretchen Men.
Oh, very nice. And thank you again, Gretchen.
Absolutely. And then I go out online and I start looking at videos. And you have like a reel, like a sizzle reel of like a lot of performances all kind of back to back, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And,
yeah.
And I was like, so that's the girl that I saw on that television show with that famous person.
Yeah, that would be her.
I have made a few appearances on TV behind. If you look behind some of the famous people, you might see me.
Well, very good. And we'll get to that, but I don't know if you're familiar with the show, but we're going to do what we always do, and we're going to take a trip in the Wayback Machine and find out where Arianna was born and raised and what got you into this wonderful, crazy world of music and how you got to where you are now. So let's hear some history.
Well, I grew up in a really small town in Pennsylvania called Penargil, and basically my dad's a guitar player. He's a great acoustic guitar player. Plays like a lot of like acoustic blues, fingerstyle stuff. And and when I was like really young, he just had me like he would teach me like Bob Dylan songs, and so I would sing them while he played them. And I think that was like the initial interest, and then my mom forced me to take piano lessons. I hated it, but I took them for like 6 or 7 years. I feel like that's not like a story unique to only me. And when I was like 12 or 13 or so, I told my mom, I was like, I really don't want to play piano anymore. And she was like, all right, well, if you don't want to play piano, then you have to play another instrument. And so I was just talking to my dad. I was like, well, maybe I would like to try guitar. Like, I was so mystified watching him play. I couldn't believe he was able to. I just, when you don't play an instrument, it's just so like mystifying, that you can create all these sounds and this music, like, just with your hands. And so, so he started teaching me, how to play around that time. And then I just kind of, I kind of took off from there, just, teaching myself throughout high school, just kind of, like I would just learn, I would do kind of everything, doing like from singer-songwriter stuff to like learning like, Metallica solos and, things like that. And then when I was ready to graduate high school, I decided I would go to school for music. So I went to a school in Pittsburgh, Duquesne University, and I studied jazz guitar there. And yeah, that's kind of the history before I moved to Los Angeles and started doing it professionally. That's kind of the, in short, my journey.
Well, you mentioned that it was mystifying watching your dad play guitar, and how he could do all these things on guitar. I mean, at least from my perspective, for me anyway, it's the same way being a guitarist watching a keyboard player. It's like, okay, I can play guitar, but wow, what you can do on a keyboard is just so much. It seems like there's so much more freedom on a keyboard than there is on a guitar, at least from my minuscule guitar playing abilities. It just seems that that keyboard is just such a, it lends itself to more musical freedom. So for you to be a keyboard player, and I'll tell you what, for you to hate it and stick it out for 8 years, good on you, girl. Because that's a long time to hate something and just continue to do it. I suppose you didn't hate it. I suppose you didn't hate it, but that's a long time to stay at something that you would prefer not doing. I should rephrase that.
Yeah,
but,
I think I enjoyed it. I think it's mostly just like just being a kid and wanting to do your own thing. I think that's more of what it was, rather than hating it, because I still love classical music, and I still love solo piano music. Like listening to Chopin is like one of my favorite things, things to listen to, solo piano stuff. So I think it's just more being a kid, not that I hated it,
Well, I assume that being in it that long, you've got at least a relatively decent amount of reading and theory behind you, which I'm sure helps musically all over.
Yeah, I would say that probably definitely helped me in the beginning, when I was learning guitar. Just knowing like just theory, basic theory. Yeah, even just like knowing notes, like knowing that that there's
Right.
12 tones, and that what makes up a chord, and just basic things like that.
Well, I tell you, the videos that I've seen, some of the finger picking stuff that you do, your right hand looks very unorthodox. It's so neat to watch your picking hand, and you do like these very big leaps kind of thing, and I guess that was influenced by your dad.
I would say the finger picking was kind of influenced by my dad, for sure. I just remember like him. He was so good. He's so good at doing this kind of like alternating bass with it. He does a lot of like drop D, and he does this alternating bass, and he keeps that bass going while he's playing solo stuff at the same time, which is really challenging, because that's it's like it ends up being syncopated, and it ends up being it's tough to keep a steady boom 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 going while you're playing a melody. And so I remember when I was a teenager, like I just asked him, because he never like formally taught me. It would be more like I would be curious about something, and I would go like, how do you do that, and like what is that? So he taught me that initially, and then I was like, well, how do I get better at this? Like I want to be better at this. I want to be a good finger picker. And he was like just stop playing with a pick, just only play with your fingers. So I think I just spent hours and just years just playing with my fingers, and developing an unorthodox style, because it's because I was self-taught, because I did it myself. It's really not like correct technique. And when I went to school, for music, and I was studying guitar, and I took some classical guitar lessons, and I because I was interested in doing that as well. And I remember my teacher telling me, like, your thumb is all wrong, the position of your hand is wrong, blah, blah, blah. And I really, really tried to fix it, but then I was just like noticing, I'm like, but I can pull off all this stuff, and I can be creative in the way that I'm being, that I don't really find it necessary for me to correct something I've been doing for years, and that's something that's working for me. So, I did the kind of rock star thing that you would do, which is just say stick your middle finger to like what's supposed to be or something. Just like, I'm just play how I play. So that's kind of how that style just came about.
Well, go ahead, Mick.
I was just going to say, to watch her do it, it would be very difficult to follow her because of the way that your hand is positioned. It's like there's no telling. You know what I mean? There's no tell. Mm-hmm. Like you'd look at it and you go, I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing how she's doing it. And it's pretty cool. And what's coming out is amazing,
I also think that's, putting aside the quote in quotes proper way to play. Mm-hmm. I think that helps a lot of players develop their own sound and style. You could be playing proper, you could be playing book-like and everything, and that's great, and you'll be able to do that like everybody else, and maybe better than everybody else. But, there's what you do enables you to probably phrase things or accentuate things in your own way. It's slightly different than what is just the known, accepted, orthodox way of doing things. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, for sure. I completely agree with that. And I mean, there's a lot to be said for proper technique and, playing, trying to reach a level of perfection. But there's also this whole other side of it, which is, being an artist, like the artistry side of it. And, there's so many guitar players that, it wasn't about technique. It was something that just came about. Like Derek Trucks is one of my favorite guitar players, and the way that he is, finger picks and plays with the slide, and that's very unique to him. I can't say if that's something that is by the book would tell you. The book would tell you, to do this, but that would be terrible if someone like him was, tried to do something by the book when he had this incredible gift and style of his own.
Well,
for sure.
And you got guys like, let's just use the very technical guys like John Petrucci, which his picking is absolutely the most efficient way that you could possibly do it, right? The guitar is positioned a certain way. That guy, it is mathematics when it comes to him.
Right.
And that serves a purpose. But then you got like a guy like Tyler Bryan or Derek Trucks that it's like, well, there is no book,
Right, there's no book. Yeah.
Maybe they wrote a book.
If they haven't, they will. But and you mentioned Derek too, and I had read something really interesting about Derek, and again, this comes from like nobody teaching him just spending years woodshedding, just learning how to play guitar, learning how to make the noises that he heard from his predecessors, and
Uncle Dwayne.
Oh yeah, Uncle Dwayne. Thank you.
Right.
And he actually applies pressure with the slide behind the fret. His execution is so fast, and the reason it's so precise most of the time is you're actually hearing the fret, not the slide.
Wow.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that.
It's crazy.
Someone was just telling me that same exact thing about his technique, and again, so interesting, like that.
That's why he's so precise.
And that technique and that style just came about probably by him. Yeah, probably by him just spending hours and hours just working it out and working out what he hears, and that's totally what I do, and I'm sure that's what so many other players do, is just sitting with the instrument and like discovering your voice and just creating and just exploring, inventing and
Sure.
yeah, and then that's totally how different techniques will come about.
Eddie didn't learn by a book.
No.
You know?
No, he was another
Like,
piano guy too, and you know, when it came to the guitar, it was like, listen to that Clapton guy.
He came out and everyone's going, what's he doing? How are these sounds coming out of that chunk of wood and strings, you know? And
I thought you know what I thought you were going to say, Jeff?
What?
Is that they found that Derek got off the same spaceship that Guthrie Govan got off.
That might be true. You know, we'll find out sometime in the future. But I want to go back to your hometown again. Why did I read that you were from Jersey?
Oh, I don't know why. My parents are from New Jersey. I grew up not far from New Jersey.
Interesting. I'm trying to remember the town, and it's in North Jersey. And the reason I remember that is because I was born and raised in North Jersey as well. I thought you were a Jersey girl. Sorry.
No, that's okay. My parents were from Cranford, New Jersey. I don't know.
Seriously, Cranford?
Yeah.
Wow, one town over from me.
No,
I could literally walk over the bridge into Cranford.
What town?
Linden.
I'll have to tell them. That's crazy.
Now, where in PA was that town that you grew up in, relative to like Philadelphia or Reading or Harrisburg or something?
Right. Yeah. It's close to it's ironically very close to the Martin Guitar Factory in Nazareth, Pennsylvania.
Oh.
So if you're a guitarist, maybe you know where that is. But it's an hour. I would say it's almost 2 hours north of Philadelphia.
Oh, okay.
And it's about an hour and a half, 2 hours west of New York City.
It's so funny. It's like Pennsylvania is like one of these like unknown areas that produce these guitar players.
Yeah.
Greg Mara, Paul Gilbert, Richie Kotzen, and yourself. Have we talked to anybody else, Jeff, that's been from PA?
You know, I'm more than likely.
Is that crazy?
Yeah.
I think it's because I've thought about this a lot too, because especially even living in Los Angeles, like I meet a lot of people from Pennsylvania, like oddly, and I think it's because you're so like it's kind of like, especially the area that I'm from, you're so close to New York City and you're so close to Philadelphia, so you just have all of this like metropolitan influence. And even though like I grew up like completely in the boonies, like total, the town probably has 3,000-4,000 people in it. It's really small. But all like the radio, there's so many great radio stations. There's so much, there's a lot of like during the summer, so many music festivals and arts festivals. And, there's just so much, there's just a lot of like, culture and music that comes through that area because it's so close to New York City and so close to Philadelphia, like in Eastern Pennsylvania. Whereas, and I really noticed this when I went to school in Pittsburgh and I lived there for a couple years after I graduated, that city is an amazing city as well, but it doesn't have as much as Eastern Pennsylvania being so close to New York and Philadelphia. Like, not as many, like there's fewer acts that will come through Pittsburgh, and there's just less, again, like less radio stations, less, there's just less. There's still a lot, like there's still, a lot of like great music happening there. But, I think the fact that if you're towards Philadelphia, you're so close to New York, so
they all want to be Bruce.
You get that metropolitan influence.
Well, Bruce was South Jersey,
Yeah, but it's right there,
Yeah, Bon Jovi was a little further North Jersey.
Yeah.
But I mean, and plenty of people like friends of ours used to work a lot in New York, but commute to Philly. Maybe a couple of days a week, just because you can, and it was more cost effective to live in Philly than it was in New York, of course.
Yeah.
So, that's.
There are definitely people like near where I grew up that would commute to New York because, you could take a train. You could take your car to a train station and be there in a couple hours. Wouldn't be
Yeah, sure. They would go and do session. They would go in and do session work, a couple days a week, and just commute in, commute out at the end of the day. And it was real easy. So, okay. So we have the whole Northeast history of you. How did you wind up in California? What put you out there?
Wait a minute though, Jeff.
Okay.
What was that first guitar?
Oh.
What was my first guitar?
Yeah, I forgot to ask that. I did.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Well, it was my dad's guitar. He had this old Yamaha, this old acoustic Yamaha from like the 70s, and it was like his first guitar that he had learned on, and he was like, well, why don't you just learn on this? And it's kind of amazing that I was able to learn on this thing because it was just like the action was so high, and my dad is like such a heavy player that he plays medium gauge strings on acoustic, which is really uncommon. Like, most players really don't use that. That's like on acoustic. That's like really. What's that?
13?
It's just not. Right? I think so. Yeah, I'm not like familiar with gauges on acoustic. So it's just crazy for acoustic. But that's the guitar I learned on, and then eventually I ended up getting like an Epiphone Les Paul. That was like my first electric.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
Did
I haven't
you?
been a Les Paul player since, but back then.
I have seen pictures of you with a Strat too. So, but that I'm sure that came later. So
yeah, I've been much more a Strat.
Yeah. So you learned on the Yamaha that had medium gauge strings and probably 1/2-inch action, and you get this Les Paul, and you probably just crushed the neck when you first got it, Right. And then had to learn how to replay.
Right.
Or had to relearn how to play. That's what I meant. Relearn how to play.
Right.
So, pretty cool. What amp did you have then? I'm sure it was some huge smoking stack. Not.
No, it wasn't. It was this little 10-watt Ibanez little practice amp, and that was literally the only thing I had for years, because I think my parents didn't really take. Yeah, right. It did have distortion, and then actually, what's actually kind of cool, a pedal I still have now, is one of my friend's boyfriends had this a Boss DM2 delay pedal from the 80s, which is a cool it's a cool analog delay, and so he just gave it to me, and not knowing that it was kind of worth something. And I still have this pedal today, but I plugged the delay. It's this little Ibanez, and I had delay and I had distortion, and I was up and running. So.
And away you go. That's all you need.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Exactly.
And we all started out with little amps like that, and it was probably really good because if you had to walk to a friend's house to play, you could carry the guitar in one hand, carry the amp in the other hand, and you're set. You don't have to move a 100-pound cabinet or anything. So, now that we got your first guitar and everything out of the way, which I totally forgot. Thank you, Mick. What took you to the left coast? What said I'm going out there, or did somebody say, hey, play with this band and come out there? How did you wind up there?
Well, after I graduated from Duquesne, once I graduated from school, I was just playing in bands and just playing in clubs around that city and teaching. That's just, just kind of freelancing, making my living that way. And I used to play at this bar regularly that used to have, when we would take a break, they would play live shows of pop stars. And I remember they were playing Beyonce's, one of Beyonce's live shows. And I noticed that she had this great all-female band, and I was listening and I was watching, and I was like, oh my gosh, I could do that. I want to do that. I want to, tour with major acts, and I want to play on stages. And it's funny that wasn't really on my radar. I think just coming from a small town and just going to school for jazz, you're kind of in this, academic world that I don't know, the pop scene really wasn't necessarily on my radar until that moment. And I just researched.
What was the bar you were playing in, and what kind of material were you playing in the bar?
So it's actually a gay bar. It was called Spin.
Okay.
It was in Shady Side, Pittsburgh. Yeah,
Okay.
and it was we were playing like, just like pop and funk, and like soul covers, just like cover band stuff, like party music, like Stevie Wonder and like, I don't know, Maroon 5 songs. And,
Okay, but I figured if most bars you're playing more of the lighter side of rock and pop and everything, so I guess you were kind of playing it, but didn't realize that you could be part of it until you saw the videos, right?
Right. Yeah. Totally. I was definitely playing that music, but in a more I don't know how to say this, like jazzy kind of musician school type kind of playing. I don't know. And I didn't really, I just wasn't, I wasn't really necessarily like aware of that world, until that moment that I saw that on that television, and I was like,
cool.
So that's when I started just, researching and then just watching all these pop bands and like YouTubing all like these performances, and then finding these musicians that do that for a living, and then, like finding them on social media, and then, reading about their stories, like, well, how did they get those gigs, and how did they get to that place? And I like particularly remember reading Phoebe McGill's biography, and that she was the guitarist for Beyonce at the time, and it, she had like gone to school like in Colorado, I think, for studied guitar there, and then she moved to Los Angeles and just started playing in clubs, and kind of like made her way that way. So I was like, I have to do that then. And so then it was just it was maybe a year or two of me just like talking to people about it and like figuring it out and saving money and practice shedding. And it's like, cause I don't know, to become the kind of player that you have to be to do those kind of gigs. And, so then it was like the beginning of 2015, and I just packed up my car with my guitars and my clothes, and I drove to Los Angeles.
Wow.
So let me get this straight.
Yeah.
Because I've seen this roster. You play with Nick Jonas. You've been out with Chris Brown, and there's other names here. I can't see them because of what I'm doing on this computer for the show. This is all within 2 years?
Yeah, it's all been within 2.5 at this point. But yeah. It's
the next sound you're going to hear is me jumping off the roof.
Right. There'll be a sound after that. That will be me landing on Mick.
But that's pretty amazing to go out there and to get that gig and get those gigs, I should say, within that short period of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was really, I just really tried to do all the right things, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people do. I mean, I've definitely been like blessed to have been given the opportunities I've been given. But I came out with totally one mindset and one goal, and I didn't really know anyone in LA. I didn't, have anything. I didn't have any work lined up. I had nothing. I just came out here and just tried to like meet as many people as I could and play at whatever jam session I could, get whoever to hear me play, and and put myself in places that I thought that there was potential and that things could work out. And I think that it did work out.
Man,
You said you started exploring other players in positions that you wanted to be in, and to try to find out how they got there, what they did to get there. Were you able to befriend any of them, online on social media before you went out there and say, hey, I'm coming out. Is there any chance of me working with anybody that you know of?
There wasn't enough of that. Like, I definitely reached out to a bunch of people that, I definitely had reached out a couple. I think that this one guy, which it's actually kind of funny. Like, he was from Pittsburgh, and he taught at the guitar store that I had taught at. So I reached out to him, and he was playing for Katy Perry at the time, and I think now he plays for the Goo Goo Dolls. And so he was actually kind of helpful. Like, he was, he was, first of all, he was really encouraging, and second of all, he gave me a name of like an agent in Los Angeles that puts together a bunch of bands, Barry Squire. If you're a musician, if you're a working musician, especially in LA, you definitely know who Barry Squire is, because he's put together a lot of, pop bands and bands for, up and coming artists. So that was helpful. And I'm trying to remember. It's for him for sure.
Yeah,
it's helpful.
Now, I guess it's pretty amazing because I came from this metal background, and those boneheads that I know, they would have never even entertained this, and that goes to what we were talking about. I don't know what show it was, Jeff. We've had so many, but you said you have to embrace everything if you want to stay working. And
sure.
That's where, like, our buddy Pete Thorne and guys like that, they stay employed because they show up for the gig, and no matter what the gig is, and they're able to do it. And I never, and I guess this is just because I don't really listen to too much pop music. I mean, I hear it and I don't really think about it too far, but it's like, some of those bands, I mean, they are very popular, and they play for very large audiences. And to get that gig, I imagine there is a laundry list of people that is probably wanting that gig at the time.
Yeah, it's for sure a competitive world, for sure. It's interesting though. Like, it helps to have like a thing, like a look or a vibe or a style, or be known for something,
Gotcha.
to be that person to call, because it's like, yeah, there's a huge laundry list of players that are amazing and totally just beyond capable of playing these pop gigs. But it comes down to like more than that. It's they want energy on stage. How do you move on stage?
Yeah.
They want to know how you look. Are you bringing some kind of look to the performance? Your sounds, your taste. And in guitar, it's definitely about like your taste and your parts, because a lot of pop music, a lot of these songs, they don't have any guitar in them, so you kind of have to create parts. So that's you have to kind of think in a way like a producer. You have to have good ideas with the right sound and something that's going to add to the song and add to the performance. And so that takes a certain kind of ability too, and something that I've really had to work on over the past couple of years and figure out how to do. Because obviously, I mean, there's endless possibilities of what you could play on a song, especially if you're like literally starting from scratch. But
okay,
that's an important aspect too.
So do you actually, in a lot of these instances, or at least some of these instances, are you the one that's actually in the studio with the artist creating your part that's being recorded, and then when you go out, you're playing your part?
Well, no, you're not added. Well, I haven't added parts in the studio to an actual recording that's like for that reason. It's more creating your parts like in a rehearsal for what the live performance will be. So a lot of times it'll be on the spot, or you'll take it home and think about it at home and then bring it to rehearsal and see what the musical director says or what the artist says.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So if there's something already recorded, you're allowed to deviate from that, like put your own spin on it.
Well, it depends. Like, so pretty much all the time with these major pop acts, not all the time, but frequently, they've got tracks playing. So in the session with the tracks, you know, there's all the stems. You know, you have like, you know, your drum parts and your bass and your guitar parts. And sometimes they'll go in and they'll take out the guitar stems and say, you know, tell you to play the part. Sometimes they'll keep that guitar stem in there because it's like a tone and it's a sound that they like want it to be louder. And so they'll be like, well, can you just double it, like play over top of it? So makes it, you know, so it's, you know, thicker and wider and it's, you know, louder. And then other times they'll be like, yeah, play something else completely different other than this guitar part, and, you know, create another part like you were saying.
That is crazy, man. And
cool.
And a lot of the live performance, there's obviously, you know, a click, the drummers going off of that, and then there's other things that are happening that there's, you know, it's being generated, right, from like a keyboard and you have to follow all that, of course. Now it's got to be in ears and direct, like no amps and stuff like that.
Well, there's everything is in ears. Yeah, totally. You're using in-ear monitors, and there's a lot of times you'll have, you know, a sound guy, a monitor guy, where you can just tell him what you need, you know, during the sound check, as far like, oh, I want more click, I don't want any click, I want more, you know, give me more hi-hat, give me more bass, I need more of my guitar, you know, and your amp will be, or my amps are mic'd. Some guitar players are going direct in, because a lot of guitar players these days are using like Kempers and things like that.
And fractals,
yeah, exactly. So they don't need amplifiers, but I haven't explored those yet. So I use an amp, and the amp's mic'd, and then some of the guitar is also, I can hear it behind me, but it's also coming into my ears as well with the tracks and with everything else.
I love this. She's moving air. I love it.
How about that?
I love it. And everybody's, you know, so many people are getting away from that. And it's like, man, there's just, when the stage just gets so quiet that there's almost nothing there but drums. And it's like, you know, it's a little too far removed from real and fun, I think.
And,
you know?
and the other side of it is too, is some of these acts, they're big acts. They can afford to carry an amp. You know, it isn't like,
sure. Exactly.
Right.
You know, it isn't like, hey, we can't take anything. You got to bring a fractal. It's like, no. I've got a football stage, football field for a stage here. Right. We can put an amp or two. Now, what do you use? What do you use?
What are you playing?
I usually use a Fender Twin reverb, and I'll usually backline 2 of those so I can get like a stereo effect. That or a DeVille. Like I just really like starting out with like a nice clean tone, and you know, Fender, you know, tube amps really, I feel like, do the best job at that for me. And then I just rely on my pedals for, you know, anything else that I need. But it's just important. It's, for me, I just like having that, you know, really nice, warm, clean, and then
I love it.
Add on top of that.
How about
I love it, because she's not playing like 1 or 2 like deluxes, like 20-watt amps.
2 twins.
200-watt amps.
Yeah.
Totally. I'm digging this, man. This is great.
This is great.
No matter what you do with those, there's some push behind it. You know, there's some air movement for sure.
It's like the only thing you need is a loincloth and a rope, and you could be Ted Nugent.
Oh, God.
That's the correct response.
That's an image. That's quite an image in my mind.
Wow. So what's, you know, you obviously need to generate a good bit of dirt and distortion and overdrive to do what you do. What's your pedal board like, or is it one unit? What are you using for that?
Well, recently I've been playing through this Tim Pierce overdrive pedal by J Rocket, and I just love this pedal because I'm a clean amp person. You know, a lot of people that get great distorted sounds, you know, they get the distortion from the amp. It's like the most natural and, you know, arguably the better way to do it, the better way to have overdrive or distortion. But this pedal makes it sound like that, like it's like a natural, like organic, you know, overdrive, like it's coming from the amp, but it's pedal. So I've been using that recently. But in the past, I've been using a JHS Angry Charlie. So that thing sounds very angry when it's cranked up.
It's the Angry Charlie.
Love it.
The Angry Charlie, the JHS Angry Charlie, yeah. But that thing is just loud and hisses, so sometimes, you have to be careful with that one. That one's like real, that can, like it's really gritty. But that one, or the Sweet Tea, I have a Sweet Tea JHS, that has more like options as far as like, a lighter overdrive to something like really, really heavy that, be almost to the point where, the Angry Charlie gets. I like the JHS overdrives and distortions. I think they have like a really, warm,
natural
bright sound. Yeah, it's natural. Yeah. But like I said, I've really been digging the J Rocket, the Tim Pierce overdrive. That's really been like my favorite right now.
Yeah, Tim, he's got a good ear for tone, and he's a great player.
He knows a couple notes.
Yeah, oh yeah. I think he knows all of them.
Yeah.
He knows all the notes.
Now, Tim, if I'm not mistaken, Tim's the guy that does the. I think he does a video cast with Pete Thorne every now and then, right? And he's got like $60,000 worth of heads sitting around him in the control room.
Yeah, that's Tim. He did his own for a while. Now he hooks up with Pete Thorne once in a while.
Yeah. Those two monsters in the same room.
I actually just did their show last week, ironically.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Get out of town.
So I got to see. Yeah, so I got to see his house and all of his, crazy guitars and amps and just everything. Just.
What's that basement look like? Is it just full of cabinets and microphones? Because the cabs are somewhere else, right?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, they're somewhere else. I didn't see those, but I would believe it. I'm sure that he has that.
That's pretty funny. So when you got out there, what was your first, what would you consider big break, gig wise?
Well, for sure it was Nick Jonas. I mean, that was definitely the big, like I did his, when I booked his fall tour in 2015, that was definitely like the biggest.
So the Jonas gig was one of your first gigs when you went out there?
Jesus.
That was the first big gig. I mean, I had been doing, like, when I got there, I started just meeting people. I used to play in these wedding bands in Pittsburgh, and they were part of this, like, global agency that had, like, sections all over the world in different cities. Okay. And so I told them that, I told them I'm moving to LA, and I was like, if you could maybe connect me with them, I could just, play some weddings out there and make some money, doing that. And initially, and so they were like, oh yeah, so they connected me and they put me on a showcase out there in LA. That was like one of my first gigs, was just doing the showcase for this wedding band agency. And I ended up meeting like some just really, really nice musicians, like just like really, really great people that started, not only becoming my friends and inviting me to hang out and like, becoming, people I began to trust when I moved here, but also like putting me on like club gigs and just other gigs to just to play and to make some money. So that was kind of the very start. And then through that, I started to play for this girl who was like a pop artist, Megan Nicole. I played like a couple things with her, and she was like a Disney actress. She was like a YouTube phenomenon at first, and then she like moved. She like had like a movie at Disney or something. So that was probably the first like professional gig that I did. I played like Radio Disney with her. I played BeautyCon with her and stuff like that.
Cool.
You were on Good Morning America one time, right? Am I wrong with that? You were.
I never did. Yeah, I never did Good Morning America.
What was it though? You were on one of those shows, and the guy came over. The cheesy news guy. Hey, we got someone, and there you are in the background.
Oh yeah, Seth Meyers maybe. What you're thinking? Or I've done Ellen a couple times. Been on Ellen a couple times. What other things? Graham Norton.
It could have been Seth, maybe.
That is the craziest thing,
wow.
Man. That is so cool. I mean, it's like, and then you see these, and that's the thing is that with me, I hear some things and I go, I don't even know if anybody's playing that up on stage, and now we're like, no, there's people up there, they're really playing, they're kicking it hard. It's like, you don't know,
it's true.
That's so cool.
It's
kind of refreshing that it's that way.
For sure. They have people that are, amazing sound guys that mix those, those shows. So it sounds so, you wouldn't even guess it was live. You'd be like, oh, maybe that's.
Wonder what those engineers are making, Jeff.
I don't know. Some good A1s out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Probably doing pretty well.
So we're doing a wedding one weekend, and we're up with Nick Jonas the next weekend. That's pretty freaking cool.
So give us the rundown of the major artists that you've played with.
So I started. So the first big one was Nick Jonas. Before that, like I said, Megan Nicole, and then I had done a show with some girls from Danity Kane, Shannon Bex and Aubrey O'Day, and then after Nick Jonas, then I started to play for Will I Am.
Oh wow!
And then because of that, I did. I played I played behind him on the Ellen show when he released a single in the beginning of spring of 2016, and then did a show with him in London, and then the Black Eyed Peas decided to come out and do a show then too. So then I started to play for the Black Eyed Peas through that, and then and then this year I did a tour with Chris Brown.
Wow.
It's like home run after home run.
Yeah, no lie.
Wow.
These are household names at this point.
These are not crappy tour buses either.
No. Wow.
No, it's been I've been so fortunate. I have to say, I've been so fortunate.
Wow,
that's pretty incredible.
So, what's the current guitar collection look like?
Yeah, what are you playing now?
Well, I just got a Sir guitar, which is a Strat, one of their Strats, which I'm really digging right now. But that's brand new, so I'm just getting comfortable with that. I've got a Gibson 339, ES 339 that I really love. I love this guitar, but it's probably play it the least out just because it makes the least sense, like in the pop world. But I'll play club gigs in LA with it. I've got a Fender Strat. It's just a standard. I've got a couple of PRSs. I have a PRS, a Custom 24. It's a 20th anniversary edition one. So it has better pickups, and the inlays are like mother of pearl, the birds that are, on the neck with kind of a little bit more artsy style to it. And then a Custom 22, it's an S2 22, something like that.
Okay.
Cool. I haven't played in a while, but it's cool. It's like a black matte PRS. And what else do I have? That's all. And I play a Taylor, my acoustic. Taylor.
Do you still have the the old Yamaha?
I don't actually. Yeah. That's at my parents' house. They still have that.
Okay, cool.
Her dad's still
I
beating
pick it up
the hell
sometimes when I go home. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, actually, I do have a couple guitars there too, because I have an Eastman too, an Eastman hollow body.
Oh, cool.
Like a jazz guitar, like a jazz box. That one's pretty cool.
And a couple twins, Jeff.
Yeah. Well, is that what do you take when you do club gigs? A twin, or do you have do you lug anything that big?
I don't know. I actually don't have a twin. I just will backline those. Fortunately, I wish I had one, but I play a Fender Blues Deluxe. Just for club gigs. Again, get that nice clean sound. I've also got like a smaller one, a Fender Super Champ X2. I love the way that amp sounds, especially for like recording. That's what I use that a lot for. It's just, you know, smaller. It depends on what kind of gig is.
You mentioned recording. What kind of recording are you doing?
Just mostly for my own self, or if I'm going to a session, sometimes I'll take that amp. But I'm always creating and writing and but nothing fancy, just laying stuff down in GarageBand, trying to get a good tone out of the equipment that I have, and then, you know, just laying ideas down.
Will you ever do like a solo album, you know? Anything like that?
Yeah, this is like what I've really been writing for and thinking about recently. Especially this summer, I've been home a decent amount since July. I've only been in and out a couple times since like the end of June, I guess. But I've just been thinking how, like, just writing and thinking how I would really love to do that. Just, you know, record my own album, my own music. You know, I've focused so much this whole time on being a sideman and touring and playing for other artists that now I feel like I'm ready to try something by myself and for myself.
Cool. Any cool studio gigs lately, like call sessions or anything that you really found fun and entertaining or special?
I got to record a bunch at Sunset Sound in Hollywood, which is a really cool studio, like a famous one actually.
Yeah,
and I recorded for this artist out here, Diana Demuth. She's a singer-songwriter from Boston, and so I helped her, work on her album, and it was cool to work for her because she was, open to, my input and, parts that I wanted to lay down and things that I thought could add to the song. So that was really great to be in that studio and, contribute what I had to contribute.
Cool.
It was great.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's some neat stuff, man.
Any next tour on the horizon that you know of? Any itineraries in the works?
Yeah. Not this weekend, but the following weekend, I'm going to Japan with Black Eyed Peas. I haven't been to Japan, so I'm stoked. We're going to play a festival there. And then I am supposed to play guitar for Black Bear on his tour in the fall. He's opening for Fall Out Boy. So,
okay.
Just one word of advice when you go to Japan. You're going to stand out, just so you know.
I'm prepared. We were in Azerbaijan. We were in a country I didn't even know how to pronounce this country until we went there. But we were there in June, and like every time, like we would walk down the street, and there's another girl in the band, Lucy, and she has bright red hair, and I have pretty bright blonde hair, and so we would walk down the street, and everyone would just stare at us, and sometimes come up and take pictures. So. I'm prepared. I'm prepared for it.
Good. Well, you've worked for it. You've worked towards it, and you got what you worked for. So, man, congratulations. That's such a great story, man.
So
and
cool.
Honestly, it just seemed that it happened so quickly for you, and that's just amazing.
Yeah.
And congratulations with that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
I totally mean it, man. Some people, just miss it for most of their life if that's what they're striving for. But I'm glad I'm glad you got there. That's great. That's
fantastic. Thank you so much.
You know what I think it is though, Jeff. A lot of times we hear about I'm going out, I'm going to do this, and they're good. But it's that cream, man. That cream will always come to the top. And she's got the chops, man. And I think that that approach and that whole deal, it's not. It's not jaded.
It's the whole package. And
Absolutely.
The thing is that is something that she realized and she worked towards. And good on you for that, man. It got you where you wanted to be. And man, I just wish you all the continued success that you could possibly want.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
You won't see me on the Nick Jonas tour until he does the senior tour. And then I can be his guitar player. It's like, who's the overweight balding guy? Yeah, that's the guitar player. There you go.
Who's that guy behind him handing him the guitar? Oh, that's just Jeff. Well, Arianna, thank you so much for taking the time. Like I said, much continued success. And man, travel the world and have some fun. That just sounds so awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Do it while you can.
Thank you. Thank you so much, and thank you so much for having me. It's been great talking to you guys.
And there you have the story.
That's pretty crazy, man. I mean, this is like the second person that we've talked to. Billy Campbell, remember, he went to Nashville, and in 4 months he was playing with Low Cash.
True.
And that's a very cool thing. And it's that drive. It's that crazy, persistent drive. Mm-hmm. And it probably has zero complaints. And that's the deal, man. We've talked to so many of these guys, and everybody's like, yeah, okay, good. Yeah, we can do that.
Show up and don't be an asshole.
Yeah. I think that should be the motto. I should have a T-shirt with
yes.
that on there.
Say yes, show up, don't be an asshole. Figure it out from there.
Yeah. I mean,
wow.
It's so funny. The faces, the voices, everything changes, but that story is almost identical, and it's crazy. Now, granted, not everybody gets there that quick, but that persistence, that persistence, and it's like, keep your head down, don't get caught up in the crap, and look what happens, man.
Yeah, and it really sounds like most of these people, it sounds like they're not caught up in any crap.
No, not at all.
They're just focused.
Yeah.
And hardworking.
And I think that's, it's like, if you take sports, you see guys that play at college level and you go, man, that kid's really good. And then you see some guy that's going into the NFL and you go, oh, I see the difference. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because the college kid is probably just, he's going to do those 4 years or whatever, and but he's not going to make the NFL or whatever it would be. But then you see that guy that is going to make the NFL and you go, oh, I see where because it's true. These guys that become these musicians in these bands, there's no slouches in the crowd,
No, I mean, no matter what the profession, it's talent and drive.
Oh, yeah.
And focus.
Yeah, the focus is the big thing, man.
Yeah. So, man, good on anybody that does it. And, audience, it can be done. It's good to start. It's good to start early and do it while you're young.
Yeah. Now I just got to invent a time machine.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
I'll take you with me.
Thanks, brother.
There you go. So until next time, my friend.
That's right. And there will be, because, we'll find somebody else that has career success in 2 years. That's right.
I'm Mick Marcelino.
I'm still Jeff Bober.
And we're always saying,
onward.
Be sure and follow the show on Twitter @AmpsandAxes. Also, make sure you like the show on Facebook. For news, comments, and everything else, visit the webpage ampsandaxescast.com. Thanks for listening.